Seat might not have much of a heritage in the family hatchback-based estate segment, but this Leon ST is nevertheless a hard option to ignore if you're shopping for this kind of car. With all the high-tech design excellence of the Golf estate it's based upon, but much more affordable pricing and an arguably sportier look and feel, it's exactly the kind of car the Spanish brand needs in this sector. So to the Seat Leon ST, a compact estate that isn't that compact, a sensible station wagon that claims to be sporty. A car of contradictions then, but one that promises to be quite appealing family transport. This is the first time the Leon range has included an estate derivative, though Seat has sold in this segment before with their Exio ST model. That car though was a rather half-hearted effort based on outdated Audi A4 Avant underpinnings. This one's very different, launched early in 2014 and running on the same high-tech MQB platform that underpins the 7th generation Volkswagen Golf. Golf and Leon models share most of the same engines too. This is, in short, a very thoroughly engineered product. Practical and sporty, it aims to offer a more dynamic option to compact estate buyers with a lifestyle appeal that might even pique the interest of folk looking at Qashqai class crossovers. That's what Seat says anyway. Time to put this car to the test. Now, you might not be surprised to learn that this Leon ST offers a very similar driving experience to that of its hatchback stablemates, which wasn't guaranteed given the fact that this variant must carry along 270mm of extra length behind its rear axle. In the event, it's not something you notice at the wheel, where the driving dynamics are every bit as good as they are across the rest of the Leon lineup. When it comes to these, the Spanish engineers were helped immeasurably by the fact that, like its Volkswagen Group cousins in this segment, estate versions of the Volkswagen Golf and the Skoda Octavia, this car rides on the German conglomerate's high-tech MQB platform, underpinnings upon which billions of euros have been lavished. It shows too, this car able to handle even the porous surfaces with supple confidence, yet hold its own on the twisty stuff where body roll is well controlled. This is proper sportiness, complementing the agile, eager feel that's always epitomised Leon motoring in its pokier guises. Yet, even if you choose one of the more firmly specified FR models with their lower, stiffer suspension and wider tyres, it's a dynamic recipe you'll still be happy to live with in the traffic jams, urban jungles and motorway mileages of real life. There's an extra dash of spirit in this car, which for some reason I just don't feel in apparently identical Golf and Octavia estates. Perhaps the sportier styling and more dynamic brand image that this Seat has lead you to push it that little bit harder, revealing unexpected handling talent that its Wolfsburg Group stablemates could also offer if only given the chance. Maybe, but somehow I doubt it. But if I can't explain to you why even an entry-level version of this Leon can offer a reasonably enthusiastic drive, I can at least elaborate on the reasons why the pokier variants further up the range really relish a good flogging. Go for a model with more than 150 PS and it'll also come with multi-link rear suspension. It's a setup more suitable for high-performance driving with 5 links per side, allowing greater lateral movement for improved contact with the road, particularly during high-speed cornering when the tyres are at the limit of their grip. It's a pity more Leon ST variants don't get it. After all, Ford fits such a setup to even the humblest versions of its rival Focus estate. Seat, in contrast, limits this system to pricey variants with its fastest 1.8 and 2 litre TSI petrol engines, plus the FR 2 litre TDI 184 PS, a pokey diesel model able to match 65 miles to the gallon economy with 140 mile an hour performance. Still, at least most Leon STs do get the clever XDS electronic differential lock, there to help you get the power down more quickly out of tight corners, dialing out understeer and firing you from bend to bend. It's one of the reasons why even an ordinary version of this car, like the 150 PS 2 litre TDI diesel model many will choose, feels very engaging to drive. It helps that this particular variant has a pretty good turn of speed, a beefy 330 Newton meters of torque, making possible 62 miles an hour from rest in 8.6 seconds on the way to a maximum of 134 miles an hour. This is one of the least powerful routes into one of the sportier FR, or Formula Racing models, which along with the top Cupra variant get Seat's drive profile system, via which you can tweak steering feel, throttle response, and on DSG Auto versions, transmission change points. If you are a potential Leon FR customer and like your driving, you'll probably be wanting to consider the extra cost option of what Seat calls its dynamic pack, via which you can gain more control over steering and ride. It includes DCC adaptive chassis control damper adjustment, so that you can extend the reach of the drive profile system modes to also set the suspension up so that it better suits the road that you're driving on and the mood that you're in. The pack also includes the uprated progressive steering system that was developed for the Golf GTI, slick, fairly light, unerringly accurate, and designed to reduce the amount of lock that you have to put on through the corners without you noticing. If you're not buying this car with vehicle dynamics as an overriding priority, you might well conclude that features like these are nice to have perhaps, but hardly of crucial value in ordinary day-to-day driving. That's the kind of motoring you'd very happily complete at the wheel of the Leon ST model that I'm trying here, the one that'll be Britain's biggest seller, the 105 PS 1.6 litre TDI diesel. Like the 105 PS 1.2 litre TSI entry-level petrol unit, this engine makes 62 miles an hour achievable from rest in just over 10 seconds on the way to around 120 miles an hour. If that's really not fast enough, then two other petrol options remain, a 1.4 TSI with 140 PS and a 1.8 TSI with 180 PS. For the 1.4, the option of ACT, or active cylinder technology, has been developed to seamlessly cut out two of the four cylinders for greater efficiency under low or medium throttle. And talking of high tech, most Leon ST variants get the option of a twin clutch DSG Auto gearbox, the clever kind that pre-selects the next gear before you've even left the last one. Thanks to this Leon ST, nobody, Seat says, now needs to compromise in their choice between a sporty car and a practical one. Now that may be overstating things a bit, but it's certainly true that this is one of the more dynamic shapes in the compact estate segment. To achieve it, the Spanish designers have had to compromise a little on ultimate carriage capacity. Without this smartly angled rear screen, for example, you could certainly fit a bit more in, but then you'd have to have a shape that would be more boxy and boring. I'm guessing that most potential family buyers would rather sacrifice a few cubic inches for a more assured driveway statement, but we'll talk more about those kinds of practicalities in a minute. For a start, let's cover the basics, which are that this ST rides on exactly the same wheelbase as its 5-door hatchback stablemate, but adds an extra 270 millimeters of length behind the rear axle to accommodate its larger luggage compartment. The beady-eyed front end, of course, is identical to that of any other Leon, a set of angular Audi-style headlamps with optional LED illumination sitting either side of the usual trapezoidal Seat grille. It's a decisive, sharply drawn shape with a clean, crisp, racy look, emphasised by the characteristic Seat Linea Dynamica profile line that runs rearwards over the arches. And it's also a clever piece of design as well as a good-looking one, the angular panel work draped over Seat's version of the Volkswagen Group's MQB modular transverse platform. Stiffer, tougher, lighter and more high-tech. But I said that we get to the practicalities that estate buyers will prioritise. The loading height isn't particularly low and accessible, but that same comment applies to rival models that, like this car, have to comply with rear accident safety legislation. Raise the sloping tailgate though, and you'll find a 587 litre boot that's a usefully square shape and fully 55% bigger than that of the hatchback model, though is 18 and 23 litres respectively smaller than the boots you'll find in estate versions of the Skoda Octavia and Volkswagen Golf. I don't think that's a large enough difference to matter too much to most family owners though, particularly as the space available is a very practical one with bag hooks, a 12-volt power socket, a ski hatch for longer items and tie-down points for an optional luggage net that'll keep your shopping in place should you get a bit carried away with your ST's sporty handling. At the bottom of the floor area, a space for the sadly optional spare wheel is carpeted, and it creates a deep storage area that'll be useful for storing small loose items. It's a pity that this tonneau cover can't be tilted upwards to ease loading, but I do like the way that it can be stored out of the way under the floor when not in use. And talking of the boot floor, it's one of those neat split level ones, so you can reposition the cargo base to suit the load that you're carrying. Now put it in its highest position and you can create an almost completely flat load area when you push forward the split folding rear bench, a process that's much easier if you've avoided one of the base trimmed models that do without the easy rear seat back release system. Now with this, these seat backs are spring loaded and automatically drop down when you pull these neat handles on the side of the cargo bay. Once the 60-40 split backrest has fallen flat, carriage capacity rises to 1,470 litres. Of course, even that may not be enough for really long items, and if you're likely to be regularly carrying that sort of thing, then you'll need to tick the box for the optional fold flat front passenger seat. That means you can carry items up to 2.5 metres in length, say an extra long stepladder. Unfortunately, these extra long items can't be too wide, as the narrower rather than the broader section of the split backrest is the one directly behind the fold flat front passenger seat. So if you're using this section of the rear bench and carrying backseat passengers, then you've got to work with this restricted width. Now let's talk people rather than packages and take up station on the back seat. Now, one of Seat's claims for this car, broadly borne out by the figures, is that it offers as much practicality as a larger estate from the next medium range segment up, where you'd find station wagon versions of cars like Ford's Mondeo and Vauxhall's Insignia. That's something you certainly feel here, where thanks to this Seat's generous wheelbase dimensions, there's just as much head and legroom as you'd find in a more expensive car of that kind. True, the width of this cabin isn't as generous as it would be in a Mondeo, so 3 adults will need to be on friendly terms. But then that applies to all this Seat's other most direct rivals. I should say though that space for your head is a little more generous than it would be in a standard Leon 5-door hatchback, thanks to this estate model's longer roofline. The light colouring for the headlining helps the airy, spacious feel, something that you can further enhance by opting for the huge panoramic glass sunroof that was specially developed for this ST body style. And up front, well, get behind the wheel, and the only clue that you're at the wheel of an estate car is that the back screen is a touch further away from the rearview mirror. Otherwise, it's just as an impressive a cabin environment as you'll find in any other third generation Leon model. Some will feel that this interior isn't quite as classy as that of a much pricier Volkswagen Golf estate. There's matte plastic where the Golf offers metallic or piano black trim. But speaking personally, I prefer the fact that this is, in many respects, a more interesting place to be. There are charismatic touches like the unusual trapezoidal shapes for things like the door handles and the air vents. And you don't have to put up with arguably pointless features like push-button starters and electronic handbrakes. I also prefer this car's higher placement of the infotainment touchscreen, or as Seat likes to call it, the Easy Connect operating system, dominating the centre part of the dashboard and far more in your line of sight than it is in, say, a Golf. It's there to reduce button clutter by dealing with stereo, phone, navigation, parking and a specified drive profile system functions, all operated via screen that comes in two sizes with carousel style graphics replicated on the additional display that you'll find in the centre of the instrument cluster. This is a practical place to be too. The big glove box is one of 13 cubby holes dotted around the car. Plus there are closed cubbies in the doors and the centre console, as well as below and between the front seats. This is, after all, a family car first and foremost, and should be equipped to swallow the paraphernalia of everyday life. Expect to pay somewhere in the £17,000 to £24,000 bracket for your Leon ST estate. That means a price premium of around £1,000 over the equivalent 5-door hatchback model. At the foot of the range, there's a £1,700 premium if you want to progress from the 1.2 litre TSI petrol variant to the identically powerful 1.6 litre TDI diesel. Go for that diesel in mid-spec SE guise and you've the option for an extra £1,000 of the frugal Ecomotive diesel version, which would probably prove to be a very efficient, practical all-round package for an outlay of just over £20,000. You'll need around £21,000 for the 2 litre TDI 150 model, but if you want the same engine with 184 PS, you'll pay nearly £24,000 as it only comes with the plusher spec. What else? Well, there's the option across the range of the smooth twin-clutch DSG auto gearbox for an extra £1,500 over the cost of the model you choose, and for the same amount, provided you avoid the entry-level petrol and diesel engines, you've the option of ordering your car with sporty FR trim. As for rivals, well, the most obvious ones are the Volkswagen Group models that share this Seat's engine wear and MQB chassis underpinnings, namely estate versions of the Skoda Octavia and the Volkswagen Golf. The Octavia is almost directly priced against this Seat and is slightly bigger but slightly less sporty, so it really comes down to personal preference. The Golf is also bigger than this Leon, but has been saddled with a massive £2,500 model for model premium over this ST that family buyers will find hard to justify, given that it's almost identical underneath. Honda's Civic Tourer also features expensive pricing up at Golf levels, though direct comparisons here are difficult due to the Civic's restricted engine range. And elsewhere in the compact estate segment, well, Peugeot's 308 SW is a strong rival for similar money to this Seat, but of course there are always slightly cheaper options. Take Toyota's Auris Touring Sports model, which looks a little more affordable in its cheapest guises, but has feebler base petrol and diesel engines. And you wouldn't save very much by opting for the Korean contingent, Kia Ceed sports wagon and Hyundai i30 Tourer models that compete with lower order ST variants. A more obvious directly comparable choice perhaps would be Ford's Focus estate or Vauxhall's Astra Sports Tourer. Choose either one of these and in list price terms, when making direct model for model comparisons, you're looking at paying slightly more than you would for this Seat, though of course in the discounted reality of mainstream dealer marketing, you might find a sharper deal on offer. But then of course, Seat franchises can also sharpen their pencils. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is a Leon ST that you really want, then whichever variant you choose with whichever engine, 1.2, 1.4, 1.8 or 2 litre petrol TSI, or 1.6 or 2 litre TDI diesel, then you're going to want a decent level of standard equipment for the deal to be swung. And by current class standards, this Leon doesn't do too badly here. It's a pity that the easy rear seat back release system that makes dropping the rear bench easier isn't standard on base trim models, nor is a hill holder clutch, and the XDS electronic limited slip differential that sharpens the car through the corners. Still, all these things are fitted from mid-spec SE level upwards, and all versions do get roof rails, halogen headlamps with electric range adjustment that thoughtfully stay on to guide you to your front door, powered front windows, powered and heated mirrors, tinted glass, and an alarm. Inside, every Leon ST features air conditioning, a height adjustable driver's seat, a split level boot floor, and a 5-inch Easy Connect infotainment touchscreen, via which you can control Bluetooth connectivity, a vehicle trip computer, and a 6-speaker stereo with steering wheel mounted controls, plus ports for USB and aux-in and an SD card slot. Options include a huge glass panoramic sunroof that's exclusive to the ST body style, plus the parking sensors and optical parking display system fitted to the car I have here, and the opportunity of embellishing the Easy Connect package with satellite navigation, perhaps via the technology pack that additionally includes LED headlamps and a DAB radio. Get your Leon ST in sporty FR spec and you get the LED headlights and the parking system thrown in, along with resculpted bumpers, grippier seats, sports suspension, an uprated stereo and larger 17-inch alloy wheels. Your dealer will also want you to look at the optional dynamic pack, which includes sharper progressive steering and DCC adaptive chassis control damper adjustment, so you can set up the ride to suit the road you're on and the mood you're in. What else? Well, I'd want the optional luggage nets and the useful foldable front passenger seat that enables you to carry really long loads without worrying about a roof rack. And the special family equipment package that includes retractable sunshades for the rear side windows and folding tables for back seat folk. Your kids will appreciate both of those features on longer trips. I'd maybe also look at a couple of the other equipment packs Seat offers. Perhaps the winter pack with headlamp washers and heated seats, or the convenience pack, which gives you rain sensing wipers, auto headlamps and an auto dimming rear view mirror. As for the high-tech stuff, well, I might be tempted by the Media System Plus setup, which increases the size of the infotainment screen and includes a proximity sensor so it can sense your finger coming towards it and offer extra options. Finally, if there was anything left in my budget, I'd also want to look at the 135 watt, 6-channel, 10-speaker Seat sound system with its built-in boot-mounted subwoofer. As for safety, well, a 5-star Euro NCAP crash test rating is justified by the standard provision of anti-whiplash head restraints, tyre pressure monitoring, Isofix child seat fastenings, twin front side and curtain airbags, plus a driver's knee bag, and of course the usual electronic assistance for traction and stability control. ABS too, of course, including an award-winning multi-collision brake system that automatically triggers the brakes and the hazard warning flashes if the airbags go off, possibly preventing further collisions. Options include high beam assist to automatically dip your lights at night in the face of oncoming traffic, and lane assist to keep dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway. Both are included in the affordable driver assist pack fitted to the car I have here. It's also possible to pay extra for ACC adaptive cruise control, a radar-based system that automatically keeps you a safe distance behind the car in front on the highway. You might also consider a tiredness recognition setup that constantly monitors your reactions and suggests a rest stop if the system thinks that you're getting drowsy. It's not easy to cut back the weight of a modern family estate in a market where buyers want their cars to be safer and more heavily equipped. Yet, thanks to the installation of the Volkswagen Group's MQB platform, the Seat manages to be singularly impressive in its lack of bulk. An entry-level 1.2 TSI Leon ST is the lightest car in its class, weighing just 1,254 kilograms. Now, to put that into perspective, we're talking 60 kilograms less than a comparable Ford Focus and a massive 130 kilograms, that's the weight of over 2 adults, less than a comparable Vauxhall Astra Sports Tourer. On top of that, this car boasts the same range of engines used in the 5-door, all featuring direct injection and turbocharging in a lineup of power plants said to be on average 22% more fuel and emissions efficient than anything the Leon range has ever previously offered. Now, this is chiefly thanks to the standard installation of a stop-start system that alone offers fuel savings of up to 4%, cutting the engine when you don't need it, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Plus an energy recovery system that stores brake energy usually lost as heat and uses it to help power the car's electrical systems, ultimately preserving fuel. All part of what SEAT calls ecomotive technology. The ultimate expression of this can be found in the fully fledged 1.6 TDI diesel 110 PS ecomotive model, in which guise this car is capable of returning 85.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and hybrid-like CO2 emissions of 87 grams per kilometre. Yes, really. But you don't have to push the ecomotive boat out to get super frugal figures. Even the standard 1.6 TDI diesel 105 PS Leon ST I'm driving here manages 74.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 99 grams per kilometre of CO2, which means a theoretical driving range of over 800 miles. While the pokier 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel variant isn't far behind on 68.9 miles to the gallon and 106 grams per kilometre. Not much worse is the potent 184 PS 2-litre TDI model, which manages 65.7 miles to the gallon and 112 grams per kilometre. Not bad for a 140 mile an hour sports estate. Don't automatically tick the box for a TDI diesel Leon though until you've properly considered the petrol proposition. With this third generation Leon, all of the Volkswagen Group's older and thirstier petrol units have finally been phased out, so everything on offer is worth looking at. For example, before going for a 2-litre TDI diesel, I'd be talking to my dealer about the possibility of placing an order for a 1.4-litre TSI petrol variant with ACT or active cylinder technology, a car that's pretty much as frugal. ACT means that it can run on just 2 cylinders on light to mid throttle loads. That car isn't cheap, but even the more affordable petrol Leons make balance sheet sense. The entry-level 105 PS 1.2-litre TSI manages 57.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 114 grams per kilometre of CO2. For the standard 1.4 TSI, the figures are 53.3 miles to the gallon and 122 grams per kilometre. And for the 1.8 TSI, you can expect 47.1 miles to the gallon and 137 grams per kilometre. Now bear in mind that if you go for an FR specification Leon, then your car will come with a drive profile system incorporating an eco mode. This helps you maximise your running cost returns by trimming the air conditioning back, indicating the best gear change points, and prompting a coasting mode on the motorway when a DSG gearbox is fitted. It all ought to add up to an impressive set of pence per mile running cost figures, and that's pretty much how it turns out. The Independent Fleet News calculator reckons that a typical Leon 1.6 TDI diesel SE variant would cost 5 pence per mile less than the equivalent Ford Focus and 12 pence per mile less than the equivalent Vauxhall Astra, a significant saving. As for depreciation, well, the cheapest 1.2-litre 105 PS petrol variant is expected to retain 43% of its original cost after 3 years and 36,000 miles. That's 9% better than a Ford Focus 1-litre EcoBoost 100 PS and 12% better than a Vauxhall Astra 1.4 16-valve 100 PS. Insurance groupings for mainstream models range between 13E and 27E. Servicing requirements are flexible depending on use, and the warranty is the industry norm of 3 years and 60,000 miles. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, estate cars were purely for estate people, those with dogs, photocopiers to cart about and weekend leisure equipment. You wouldn't really consider one if you didn't actually need to. But station wagons like this Leon ST are rather different. Why wouldn't you choose one of these rather than a standard Leon 5-door hatch? After all, the ST variant isn't much more expensive, looks just as good, drives just as well, and offers a lot more everyday flexibility. Like the best of its family hatchback-based competitors, it's also successful in offering nearly all the practicality you'd get in a larger estate car, with the easy parking and deft manoeuvrability of a much smaller one. Is there really any point in considering a 5-seater, compact, scenic-shaped people carrier when a car like this Seat can be so versatile? What it all boils down to is that with some great engines, a design that's bang up to date, and a shape that doesn't instantly appear as if you've started down the slippery slope to Pipe and Slippersville, the Seat Leon ST has a whole lot going for it. If you need an estate but wouldn't want to be seen dead in one, there is an alternative to a small SUV or MPV. If that's the kind of thing you have in mind, make sure this Spanish contender's also on your wish list. It might surprise you.